All right, the amount of uphill battles that I had to climb to get in front of this camera today. Hi, welcome. My name is Britt Shane. I am a serial entrepreneur, business consultant, and also a life coach. I'm here to inspire you to live the life of your dreams or start the business that the world needs. And I am coming here today because I had known that this month was the month I was going to take my YouTube seriously. For those of you who have no idea who I am, I have built businesses over the last better part of a decade or so, and I've built a lot of businesses in the beauty space, in the educational space, and I have a lot of friends who have super successful lives, but lately there has been this very common theme, and it's happening in my friends who are still working in corporate America and looking to expand and build their own thing. And it's also happening to my friends that are incredibly successful and running big companies, and just this feeling of something doesn't feel right. I am in this life and something just feels out of alignment for me, and I'm not sure what it is, and I'm sick of feeling this way and I want to address it. It is my goal that by the time you finish this video, I will bring you more clarity on your life, why things feel out of alignment, and how to get very quickly back into a space or a life that feels way better than the one you're in now. One of the comments that I just went through this so hard. I feel like I had a third dark night of the soul this year and I couldn't figure out what was happening. Nothing felt right. One of the things that's happening to me and the people around me is that unless you are very clear on your mission and purpose in this world, it is highly probable that even if you have a life that you feel like you should love a lot, you might be feeling like something is just a little bit off. I believe that cellularly and metaphysically and universally, we are all going through this challenge of getting into a better life. And I saw this quote last week and it said, 7 billion people, I hope one day there's 7 billion businesses. And a lot of people get so overwhelmed at the idea of starting their own business. And that is something that I am actually super passionate about. I have an entire agency just dedicated to launching businesses because I believe that each of us has a specific gift to bring the world. That doesn't mean that every single person needs to make $1 million a month and be a multimillionaire and have a private jet. But even if it's something as simple as being the most incredible accountant and helping people organize their finances, or being a beautiful artist and covering people's home in amazing art, or being an incredible singer and blessing people with that voice and that vibration, I think that writers, teachers, guides, healers, every single one of us has something that inherently, since childhood, we have loved, been good at, and been drawn towards. So I'm going to focus a lot of this video on taking the life that you're in right now and either completely ejecting yourself from it or crafting an understanding of what, who, why, and how these little parts of your business, your day are pissing you off, making you sad, making you frustrated, making you lay your head on the pillow at night going, I am so damn tired. One of the things that I have felt myself, and I'm sure many of you watching have felt this if you've had any sort of success in your life, is I should be happy. I should be happy. People would kill to be me. People would kill to have my life. I feel guilty for not being happier than I am. I feel like this shouldn't hurt as much as it does. In the event that you're working for a boss who is in line with their personal mission and pushing the narrative of the universe and of Earth forward, aside from working for that kind of a boss, most of us are underneath people with questionable morals, questionable values, and people who aren't good leaders. I actually will be the first to raise my hand and say that I own many companies and I've built many companies, and I am not the greatest person managing a team of people because I am an inventor and I'm a creative and I'm out in the world thinking up new ideas, and therefore there is a role in every business of the manager, and it manages the team of people that are there working towards a specific mission together, okay? So if you don't have a boss like that and you don't totally align to the mission that they are doing, let's say you work for the biggest car dealership in the entire world, and maybe you do make 500 grand a year and you're doing really good, maybe you make $1 million a year, I don't know. But if what you're doing every day is selling cars, and selling cars is not one, in line with who you are, what you love, your passions, your drive, it doesn't matter what that number is. And I know that sounds crazy because a lot of you watching might still be working on that lower part of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. which I can put a picture in here of that. But it's basically your foundation comes before all of the rest of the needs that you need to have met at the top, being self-actualization. So right now, a lot of people, even people who have had the foundation built, climbed up to self-actualization and come all the way back down to priority and the bottom: foundation, money, our house, food, shelter, water, the basic necessities of being a human. I know that I'm going through that right now, which is why I'm talking at this camera. I've built this big life and I want to give back to the world. And I'm sure you are feeling that too. We are all going through it. And so if you're telling yourself, I should be happy, I should be this, stop. Stop. Don't downplay the way that you feel. The worst thing you can do for yourself when you have a feeling like that, like I'm unhappy, I'm sad, I'm angry, whatever, is shove it down. Our parents likely did that to us for a lot of our lives, and or our partners have done that to us, and we are not living in that space anymore. If you are sad, mad, frustrated, overwhelmed, tired, give it a voice. Give your inner child, your inner self, your inner emotional compass a voice. Now, I am not saying to go out tomorrow and burn your entire life to the ground. That would not be ethical of me, nor would it be appropriate, because that's going to let down people you've given your word to. We are not going to escape your life like that, and we may not have to escape your life once you hear some of my tips and tricks. Okay, so if you are not ruthless with moving into a new reality, you will spend years of your life chasing the wrong things. I had a business at one point, and one of our highest months, I think I was doing around 50 grand a month. I was miserable in that business. And when I learned this next trick that I'm going to tell you, it changed my entire scope of being an entrepreneur. And I get offers all the time now that go against what I've already learned that doesn't work for me. And I turn down the money because I am chasing more of a feeling and a passion project and impact. So one of the things that I'm encouraging you to do first, before we even dive into any of the logical steps, I want you to get a list of all of the top values. So a value is something that is very important to you as a person. And so I'm going to put a big list up on the screen here. Feel free to pause me and take a minute. Even if you want to screenshot, if you have a Mac, Shift Command 4, screenshot this screen, print it out. And I want you to circle as many as you're drawn to. Let's try to shoot for around 10 or 15. Then we're going to take those 10 or 15, and we're going to narrow them down and down and down until we get to 5. Those are your top 5 core values, okay? And then when we talk about your work, we want to have 3. So I'm going to give you an example of why this is so important. And do these activities with me as we go. Feel free to pause me as many times as you need. It is going to actually change your life by the end of this video, because you will have information about yourself as a person that you can't get from anywhere else unless someone else has you do the value system exercise. You guys, this is insane. My camera just told me that the internal temperature was too hot and that it needed to cool down. But you know what? We're persevering with this video. We are not going to let any energy interfere with your enlightenment right now, okay? So we're gonna carry on. Let me just put my little mic on here real quick. This cord is actually 2 feet long, so I'll have to sit a little bit closer to you guys. Okay, where were we? We're talking about picking your value system, and I'm gonna start from the top of that. I'm gonna give you a personal example of why this is so important. I did this the first time in 2020. I owned a huge beauty salon, and I had already started one of my product companies, and I was doing training and blah, 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 doing really well for myself in my early 30s. And I was a couple years into entrepreneurship. I was booked out for months, and I should have been happy, and I was not happy. When I did my value system, I realized that my top 3 values were adventure, spirituality, and impact, with like number 4 and 5 being humor. And all of that to say, I had a business that lacked complete adventure. I was booked out so far I could never take any trips. It had lost its spirituality because I was in the beauty industry, and while I became really well known and blew up my business, I feel like, because those services felt like coaching to my clients, what I really was a really high-end life coach, spiritual coach, and teacher. So my business was working really well based on the fact that I happened to be a talented artist in one capacity, and I just loved talking to people and sharing their life. So I would spend hours and hours with my clients every day talking to them about their life. Loved that part of it, loved the spiritual aspect. But the lack of adventure and the lack of true spiritual involvement and lack of impact and the lack of adventure was making that business be actually very out of alignment for me. So besides the sprinkling of the spiritual nature, I was really out of alignment. So in order to fix that, I actually ended up having to close my salon. And that was a really scary day for me because I thought, okay, I'm going to go leap off this cliff and I'm going to go do something else. And I had no idea if it was going to work. And I started a new life. And fortunately, I was able to pull it off and get more into my passion. But the same thing happened again this year, years later. I created another thing. It grew really big. I realized it was swallowing all of my time. It lacked adventure. It lacked spirituality. And I had to pivot. So do not feel like a failure if this is happening to you for the first time, third time, seventh time. I will always pivot. And I am constantly pivoting to realign my energy. And I've got to the point now where people will be like, what are you up to? What are you building? What are you working on? I'm like, nothing. Everything's good. Just, moving along. Because if you are worried about what other people think, you will stay in the same life, the same relationship, the same city, the same job, and you will ignore that voice inside of you. So going back to what we said earlier, honor your discomfort so that we can move the discomfort, look at it, figure out what it is. The other good thing I want to remind you is, yes, we are excavating bones from the earth right now. We are digging inside of you and figuring out who you are as a person and what makes you tick, which can be a very daunting thing. I get that. A lot of people are like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Don't go diving in places that I don't want to talk about. However, the good news is if you follow this process and you do it properly, you can go from a life that hurts so bad to an entirely different reality within a super short amount of time. And I'm talking weeks, maybe a month. I have gone in the same 30-day period and gone to my team and said, I am super out of alignment and nothing feels right. We have to change. We have to pivot. I have to change. And I'm sorry, but I have to. And within weeks, I have gotten out of bed, put my feet on the ground, got my morning tea and said, wow, life feels amazing. Okay. And that is because as humans, we have that emotional system for a reason. It's a warning signal. And if you're constantly in warning and in cortisol, that's not good for your body. That can make you sick. And I won't go down a rabbit hole about that. But if you're following me and if you're here, just know long periods of elevated stress, elevated cortisol can make you sick. So if for nothing else, and you want to live a long, happy life, address this, look at it. If you look at it, I promise you, once you look at it, it will hurt for a little bit, if it hurts at all, and then you will say, oh my God, that was the worst month of my life, but I feel better. Okay, so now that we have your values, now we have to go into the Brit Shane formula for realigning your life to where it needs to be right now. It may change in 5 years, and it may be different than 5 years ago, but for right now, this time of your life, here is the next step. Okay, so we're gonna align your values to your current life. So before we dive into some of the bigger things that you'd like to do, I want to remind you that one of the things I'd also like you to do is starting today and over the next 10 days, I want you to write down every single thing that you actually have to do for your current job, whether that's you own your own business, you work for someone else, you're a mom of 3, you're a stay-at-home wife, whatever your current situation is, I want you to objectively write down the things that you have to do. And it can also be things that you need to delegate, all right? Like grocery shopping and answering the phone at your business, whatever. There are things you're going to be able to delegate, but I just want you to make a long list. In one of my businesses, there was 93 bullet points. In my other business, there was 9. Okay, so if you're a 93 bullet point person, I want to send you a virtual hug because when I crumbled internally, it was because I did this exercise, and this is coming from personal experience. When I saw the 93 things that I needed to do, that was when I hired my first COO, and my life got incredibly better. And I still go through periods where things are out of alignment and they have to change, but 93 bullet points was the job that I was doing. And I saw it on paper and I said, oh my goodness. And then once you've gone 10 days, 20 days, depending on how your life works, however many days it takes, I can do mine in one day, all of the things I need to do. You're going to look at that and you're going to objectively decide, what of those things do you really need to be doing for your life to continue spinning? And what of those things can we delegate? Now, the reason that this is important is because unless you are actually intending to quit your job tomorrow, you need to keep your current life spinning while you build a new one, unless you have the financial ability to do the opposite. I love the jump off the cliff method. I'm a big fan. I will go down to my last 14 cents before I do something that I don't want to do. And that's not to say there's not days in business where I have to do something that I don't want to do. I love filming YouTube videos. Setting this up today was exhausting. Doing my makeup for this video was annoying. Trying to figure out why my camera battery is broken and having to go buy a new one, right? Even if you love, love, love your passion, if you turn it into a job, there will still be challenges. So it doesn't mean that you are going to literally light your current life on fire unless you have the ability to do so. Hallelujah. Love that. Call me. I'll help you build the next thing. But if you are the average person, this is going to be a transition. So for me, I usually give myself 4 to 6 months of change. I let everyone in my life know that 4 to 6 months from now, this is what's happening. That makes your team and the people around you and your whoever feel a little more comfortable, because it's not like, hey, on Tuesday, I've decided to move out of the country. Yeah, I've done that. So we're not doing that. We're not doing that to the people that love us and require our stability. Once you decide all of your actual daily tasks, now we are going to go into the fun stuff. Set that aside for a minute. I want you to look out 10 years. So if you're 25, go to 35. If you're 35, go to 45. We're going to do a life audit. I want you to dream really, really, really big. And that looks like, what is the job that you would do if you knew that you couldn't fail? What does that look like for you? Feel free to pause me if you want to do this in real time. Feel free to pause me and write this down. What is the job that you would do, and who is the person that you would become physically, mentally, emotionally, if you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt you could not fail? And try to get out of your own way here, because you might be surprised to know that a lot of the things that people think are hard to accomplish, I've seen people with probably less talent than you do it. Okay, so part of my job here is to convince you to go and get your best life, and to remind you that there's people less talented and less good-hearted that are doing it. Okay, so we need you to get out there and follow that. So when you decide 10 years from now, I want you to think of the partner that you're with currently, or the person that you think you want to be with, and imagine your future self. And I want you to honestly answer, does that person fit that life? 10 years from now, me, in this big dream that I've just made up, does he, she, they fit? That could be a big part of your problem. You could be out of alignment in your personal life. Okay, so that's not for me to decide, that's for you to decide. If you think, yes, absolutely, this is my person, we are going to navigate this until the end, that's fantastic. That's moving on to the next thing. Do your friends fit? Does the person who you spend the most time texting and calling, that's your best girlfriend, your best guy friend, do they fit the version of you? When you make millions of dollars a year, are they still going to be someone you want to have in your life? Answer that honestly. I couldn't answer that and say yes 2 years ago. I can today. Hard question. The other thing is, sometimes you think people aren't going to fit and grow with you, and they shock you. I have people in my life that I would give anything to, and it has been such a blessing, those people coming in and watching for these kinds of things, the support. As you succeed, who's supporting you? We want to keep those people. And this is actually going to be a lot of really uncomfortable conversations as well. When I knew that I was ready for being on YouTube and whatever comes with that, it was when I got really comfortable with having super hard conversations with people, and they don't get easier. They only get easier by the fact that you know that doing it is the right option, but it's still always uncomfortable having those conversations with the people that need to move out of your life. All right, so next we're going to talk about passion and projects. This is going to be things that don't necessarily make you money, but that you would love to make you money, or that feed your soul. So I'll give you a few of mine. Reading books, filming YouTube, learning things, like learning, I'm currently diving into astrocartography, learning about things that don't actually make me money, but I want to add them to my tool belt. Pilates, traveling, those are things that fill my cup to the absolute brim. I want you to make a list of all of those for you. It could be anything from baking to taking walks to watching sunsets to drinking coffee, whatever it is, your passions, the things that you love. It can be as big as writing a book, and it can be as small as reading a book or going to the bookstore. Okay, it does not need to be crazy. The reason that this is important is because we're taking this map that we've just made of you, and feel free again to pause me, write this down if you want to do it in real time, it might be helpful. So now what we have is a few things. We have one, this is who you are. These are your top 4 or 5 values, and we can objectively decide whether or not those are present in your life at this current moment and be honest about it. Then we can look at all of the things that you have to do so that the wheels on your bus, the bus doesn't go off the road and you don't let anybody down, and you have a little bit of a net and runway to get you into the next life. And then you're going to compare the two. So if your life hurts right now, I want you to actually have a conversation with yourself of are my values present in my day-to-day? If they are not, that's where we start. We are starting by infusing more values into your life. So for me, adventure. If I take one trip a month, I can be in my home state, which is Arizona. I can work my booty off for 21 days. I'm talking eat, sleep, breathe at work, which I don't do, but I could. If I get 9 days out of the country, 9 days traveling, that's enough for me. That will make the job that lacks adventure feel adventurous. If I can take one spiritual class or do my YouTube videos, this feeds my spiritual self, okay? And then also impact and passion, which is really big to me. So I hope that this is really making sense to you, because one of the main points I hope you walk away with is if something feels out of alignment, it's because you have a need, a desire, or a want that is being ignored, and you are feeling resentful, angry, guilty, shameful, scared. I don't know the emotion you're in, but I can guarantee that if you compare the life you're in right now to your values, once you figure them out, there's going to be a misalignment. And it's, for me, this was like ding, 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 ding. I mean, the whole world opened up for me, and I realized I was so unhappy that I felt so brave to change my whole life. Okay, lastly, we are going to talk just a little bit about the spiritual aspect of this. For those that have a little time to change your life today, let's dive into this. Your purpose is in the wound that you have stood in your whole life. So for me, there are a few wounds that I have had: attachment wounds, codependency. I was abused as a kid. There's a lot of things that I now hold a really powerful frame in the world because I turned that wound into wisdom. And then that wisdom is now what I use to impact my knowledge with the world. So for you, if you look at the things you struggle with, those things that you have healed, particularly your particular journey, that is what your followers need. That is what the world needs from you. That is what the people that interact with you in the public space need. So for me, I really just want to remind you and convince you that no matter who you are, where you're from, or how little and insignificant you think that you are not insignificant. And I will tell you why that is objectively a true statement. Because if you wake up tomorrow after watching this video and you say, today is the day that I've decided, I feel like I want to cry as I say this, today is the day that I have decided that my life matters. My journey matters, the things I say matter, and if I decide today to be a person of impact that changes other people's lives, the cool thing about this world is you get to. Tomorrow. Today even, but tomorrow. And so that's why I want to say it doesn't need to be something, you don't need to sell 1 million copies of a book. You could sell 5 copies of a book. You could change 5 people's lives. Then those 5 people go change 5 lives. It's very cliche to say, but I spent so much of my life with all of these gifts buried because I felt this big, because I grew up in an environment that made me feel this big, and that everything about me was wrong, and be quiet, and you're to this and you're to that. And you know what? When I shattered through that, I have helped thousands of people now. I have taught thousands of people. I have interacted with thousands of people. And I need to remind you to believe in yourself, because if no one believes in you, it's probably what everybody goes through. You don't have a support system, potentially. You don't need a support system to change the world. You just need to decide to change the world. And so if you can find the intersection of the things that you love to do, infuse those into your day-to-day, and find something that you think you can do better than the rest of the world, and also something that you do specifically and uniquely, it'd be really cool if you brought that to people on a larger scale. And the goal doesn't always have to be money, because I want to remind you, let's say you stay in the current life that you are in. If that life takes up 30 hours of your week, that still leaves you 15, 20, 30 hours to follow other passions. You don't have to just light your whole life on fire to get back into alignment. You just have to give yourself enough good, juicy, yummy goodness each day that you feel like your day mattered. There is not a feeling quite so yucky as your day feeling like it didn't matter. Okay, and last topic, but very important topic. You might not know the exact answer. And unfortunately, sometimes you're just going to have to take a step, and you might be wrong about the step. You might feel called to go to a specific school or a specific city, spend some time there, and realize that nothing came of it, but it led you to one next step.
And this is really important because we live in a world where you're seeing someone's highlight reels on Instagram. Your friends aren't telling you every single failure, and you probably don't have friends that fail as much as mine. Serial entrepreneurship and doing entrepreneurship at a big level is dangerous, it's risky, and a lot of times things happen that you don't even talk about to the general public. You're constantly facing L's and you're constantly hitting W's, and the wins and losses is something that's a private battle within each of us. And so I just want to tell you that I may not post it publicly, but I fail a lot. My friends fail a lot. Everyone I know who makes $1 million a year fails a lot. And people that do huge businesses, way bigger than $1 million a year, they're facing difficulties on a weekly, monthly, sometimes even daily basis. So I just want to remind you that failure is so normal, and everybody has a fear of failure. Of course, you have a fear of failure. I have a fear of failure, running out of money. I have a fear of getting dumped. We all have these of course you don't want to fail. Why would you be like, I am super excited to embarrass myself in front of 10,000 people this year? No, you don't want to do that. But what I will say is, when you are taking your last breath on your last day, one of the common things that you hear so much, people do not give a shit about the things that they did bad. They only care about the things they never tried to do, or the things that they were called to in their soul by the universe, by God, to execute for the people that they didn't even try. I could have done this. I should have done that. I should have left that relationship. I could have been this in my career. Blah, 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 blah. I should have made that phone call. I should have had that conversation. So I'm going to remind you, if you study death and people exiting this earth, you will hear a very common thread of people who have regrets. I would rather you make the most foolish pivot of the century and be giggled at by 7 people I just pulled my camera, to figure out what it is you need to do, because maybe that first step you're like, ooh, this is wobbly, this might not have been it. Fuck it, take the next one. Take the next one, take the next one, take the next one. Then you'll get to a point, this feels great. Drive that car for a while. All of a sudden, you'll wake up, you'll go, time to pivot. If you don't pivot, you go extinct. Netflix used to ship people DVDs. You guys? Apple started as a computer that plugged in to a wall. Okay? Pivoting is important. Not pivoting will make you extinct. And the last thing I will leave you with in regards to that is, a car that's parked is really hard to guide. So start moving, start getting into motion, and you don't have to tell the entire internet or your entire family what you're working on. In fact, a lot of super successful billionaires, Sarah Blakely said this once, she did not tell anyone in her family about her business. She's a self-made billionaire. The inventor of Spanx, actually sold for a lot of money. She did not tell anyone in her life what she was doing, because she had the awareness that if she repeated out loud what business she was starting, she knew that everyone in her life would give her so much shit for it. And she didn't tell them until a year in, after it was successful.
No matter how many of my devices die, I will finish this video today. It just died again. If you needed to hear it, if this was for you, if you're the one blowing out all the electricity and the batteries, phone died at that last sentence. I'm wrapping it up. And all I wanted to say was, if you need someone to believe in you, I believe in you. No one's going to believe in you until they get to say, I know her. I know him. Their number's in my phone. That's the weird truth about life. Your mom may believe in you and probably a couple of your closest friends, but if you go out with your wild dreams and start sharing these with people, you're going to be met with resistance. And why would you do that? Confidence, unless you're a rock star in those categories, unless you are a rock star in self-confidence, self-worth, and you believe in yourself implicitly until the end of time, I'd suggest keeping this pivot to yourself. And comment. Tell me what you're struggling with. Tell me what you'd like to see a video on. Tell me if there's anything that I can address that would make your life easier. I feel like I've probably been through a lot of this myself, and I'm in the middle of a pivot as well. So I feel capable of telling you it's going to be okay. And it's going to be a little bit lonely and scary potentially, but I will be here for you. I believe in you. And thank you for following along and watching me build my YouTube. This is one of my first long form videos in years. So if you didn't notice that by my technology issues, welcome. The universe is fighting me getting this message out to you guys. Someone needed to hear it. Comment on my video if you needed to hear it, if this was for you, if you're the one blowing out all the electricity and the batteries. But I am solving those problems by the day, and if I can go and live the life that I want to live, which is talking to you every day, then so can you. Let's do it together. Please follow along, and I look forward to talking with you, working with you, and being connected to you for many years to come.